Hi, I'm Haley Victoria and welcome back to my crime and policing channel. In today's session, I'm going to address the major elephant in the room, the legal elephant in the room, or elephants, that of the trial of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Now then, looking at this from a different perspective probably than the whole rest of the internet, we're going to actually pick apart what constitutes as domestic abuse and whether or not, looking at the evidence we've seen so far, we think it could fall into either of these categories. Now, I'm not here to pass judgment. They've got a jury for that and, a judge and all that stuff. But what I am going to do is help us to decide in UK legal terms where these incidents would, sit in our legislation. I mean, if you've not listened to some of the recordings, I'm guessing you live on Mars, or you've not seen any of the images and the headlines and everything, it's all over the internet. It's got like more views than anything else at the moment. So let's have a look at exactly what it is. So here in the UK, we've got pretty recent legislation in relation to domestic abuse. Yay! This particular, the main that we're going to look at is the Domestic Abuse Act 2021. So yeah, that's really recent, right? And that's come off the back of loads of different things, and a lot of stuff have been amalgamated in order to create this act, and it makes it much clearer to support victims of domestic abuse. I'm also going to cover some other domestic relationship abuse acts too, because I think it's important that we look at everything. And the main reason why I wanted to do this video was not to jump on any bandwagons of celebrity cases, but to highlight things. If you are looking up these kind of things on the internet and you think you may be being abused, or somebody you know, or a friend, a family member, somebody at work even, if you think they might be being abused and you're looking up this kind of stuff to get some reassurance or whatever, then, hopefully stuff we can talk about can help you go to the right sources, get the right information and seek help for yourself or others. So domestic abuse, when we say that, we don't just mean like someone hitting you or pushing you or shoving you, and we don't just mean physical stuff. It also encaptures lots of other things. You might have heard the term coercive control being used, and that's where somebody controls you through coercion. So that they're kind of making you do stuff, they're controlling you and making you do things. And you might be thinking, oh, no one would ever do that to me. But trust me, the strongest people, your friends, family, you think, oh yeah, they're so strong. That never happened to them. It could happen to anybody. Because, the people, the abusers, really get into your head, strip away all of your strength, maybe separate you from your friends and family, they isolate you, so you're truly wholly dependent on that person. And then it's easier when you're that vulnerable for them to control you, control where you go, who you see, what money you can have, whether or not you can wear makeup or high heels. Okay, so let's have a look at this act then. I'm going to read the legislation straight from the College of Policing website. So Domestic Abuse Act 2021 Section 1 states that behaviour of a person towards another person is domestic abuse if both of those people are aged 16 or over and are personally connected to each other and the behaviour is abusive. But what is abusive, I hear you ask? Well, behaviour is abusive if it is, and this is from the College of Policing again, physical or sexual abuse. So physical abuse, you're thinking, punch, slap, kick, whatever. Sexual abuse is sexual abuse. Violent or threatening behaviour, maybe smashing stuff up, or I'm going to fuck you up, that kind of business, yeah? Controlling or coercive behaviour, you're controlling somebody. You're taking away their themness, okay? Economic abuse, taking away the money, not letting them have access to anything financially. Psychological, emotional or other abuse. Now, psychological and emotional abuse is much more difficult to see than physical abuse. But in a lot of occasions, it can be maybe even harder for victims to recover from, because it still leaves a trauma, a psychological trauma that you do well to get therapy from the NHS. They're excellent. We've got a service called IAPT in the UK, especially up north, which is spot on for things like that. And you can get talking therapy, you can get EMDR, you can get CBT, all sorts of things to help recover from the PTSD that you sometimes get from domestic abuse. So emotionally abusive, psychologically abusive, when you are put in that position, when you're being abused by somebody, so like I mentioned, they might isolate you, from your friends and your family, from people you trust and you love. And it might start off really small. So it might be little things like, oh, you shouldn't talk to him, I know he fancies you, and that might cause a problem in our relationship. Or it might be, they might say, oh, you shouldn't trust them because of this, this and this. Or they start planting the seed that the person that they see as a threat to, you know, the power over you, they start to plant these little seeds that they shouldn't be around. Or they might, when your friends or family come around to the house, they might go cold and weird and make the atmosphere proper dodge. And then you start asking them around because you're embarrassed, or their behaviour changes and you don't want to be in trouble again. So you gradually become more and more isolated. Or it may be something like you've had a child with the abuser and they're like, mothers don't behave like that. If you want to go out with your friends, for example, or I'm embarrassed by what you're wearing, you're supposed to be a wife and a mother. So you stop wearing the clothes you would wear. You shouldn't wear makeup, it makes you like a slag. Or you shouldn't wear high heels because it looks like you're after something. And you start to believe it, and little by little, the you-ness goes. So this is something to look out for yourself, for your friends, your family, co-workers. If they start to change, their demeanour changes, or when they're going home from work, they're a little bit different. They're not like, you know, they stop taking care of themselves, this is the psychological stuff, or that they lose the spark, you know. There are physical things you can see as well, so you'll see bruises, cuts, etc. if they're being physically abused. But not all physical abusers will abuse somebody where you can see. Because if you can see it, you can find it out. And the crafty thing about domestic abuse and domestic violence is it goes on for a long time generally before people report it. So you can have quite a few instances, I'll try and get a percentage and put it here, of times somebody is abused before they finally report it. And it escalates as well. So what might start as throwing stuff at somebody, or I don't know, smashing stuff up in the house with an axe or something, if you don't get out, that could escalate into you being the target and not just things in the house. And smashing stuff up in the house, that violent behaviour, is there to intimidate you, to scare you into doing something they want you to do. And this is abusive. If another thing, an emotional abusive thing might be, if you loved me, you would. If you love me, you wouldn't. Now, if someone coercing you to do something sexually is a sexual offence, they are, you know, if you've not given them your true consent, they're coercing you into it, that's rape. Okay, so if this is happening to you, please go and see the police. And you can trust the police are brilliant. And I know there's been some people who've had really bad experiences, but 9 times out of 10, the police are fantastic, and there's specialised units that can help domestic abuse victims. Now, one thing I do want to make quite clear is that domestic abuse victims are not only women. So you can be any gender and be abused by your spouse or someone you're close to. It doesn't have to be just because you are male, female, non-binary. It could be absolutely anybody on anybody. It doesn't matter what gender you are, domestic abuse can happen to you. It can happen to your friends, can happen to your family. And if you see it happening to anybody or you feel it yourself, please do get help. There's a service called Victim Support in the UK, which is fab. If you look on the website, I'll try and put a phone number here. And I'll also put some details in this video of people to contact if you are worried about yourself or somebody else. Okay. In terms of the Domestic Abuse Act 2021, a really good inclusion in there is it doesn't matter if it's one occasion or many, like a course of conduct, that's making this abuse. It can be one time. It doesn't have to be, oh, he did it 3 times. It can be one time, okay? So even if someone does it once and they go, I'll never do it again, they will do it again. Yeah, then it's abuse. It counts, okay? So don't be afraid to speak up. And I mentioned controlling and coercive behaviour earlier. That does tend to lead to more aggressive things later on. So you might be controlled and coerced into doing stuff, and you might think it's quite low level and you can deal with it. They're just being protective, or they just love me a lot and they don't want me to get hurt, you know, looking out for my best interests. So you might be low level at first, you might not think much of it, but it escalates. It will escalate to more. I can't stress enough how if you feel you're being controlled by somebody, you need to get some help, okay? Things that are also unlawful massive at the moment, or not anymore, thankfully. It still happens. Revenge porn. So, you know, you might have made intimate videos or photographs with your partner, then they then go on and share it. That's an offence. And if they, even if they just threaten it and cause you distress, that itself counts as well. So threatening to do it, like, ha, I'm going to share everyone that video. That'll teach you. You have to stay with me now because I don't want to see you looking like this, you slag. That's the kind of thing that people say. That's not what I think. And things I've heard before, for whatever means. There are a multitude of things that the police can, in the courts, can do to help protect you. Whether that's like a non-molestation order so you can't contact you. There's restraining orders. There's all sorts of things that they can put in place. And lots of civil and criminal things can be done to support victims of crime. Now then, so now we know what constitutes as domestic abuse. Why don't we have a look at the much anticipated Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial? So here's the facts that we know so far. We've listened to the recordings. I'll pop a link in the chat as well. So the recordings, the news articles, you cannot escape it on the internet at the minute. What they are saying and playing are, we've got claims from the defendant, which is Amber Heard. She's submitted photographs of bruising, cuts to her face, to her body, to her scalp. She's got testimony from friends that they've witnessed the aftermath of this, or they've heard things in the room. We're only at the 19th of May so far, so who knows what's going to happen next. We've also got Mr. Depp and his side of the argument. We've got recordings of Amber being quite abusive towards him verbally. We've got images of him with cuts, bruises, and witnesses stating that, you know, they had seen altercations between them or language used by them to demean and embarrass them. We also have, obviously, the picture of the poop in the bed. Whether or not Ms. Heard did that, I don't know, I wasn't there. But the prosecution are saying that Amber Heard did the poo on the bed. But I'm not the jury. I'm not here to make a judgment. We're just here to look at the facts. So applying what we've just learned about domestic abuse, let's have a look at Amber Heard first. So, do we believe, because remember the op-ed was, she's being sued at the moment by Mr. Depp because he's saying, you lied, I never hurt you. So if we look at the images and we take them at face value, so she's telling the truth and she has been assaulted by Mr. Depp, it would be domestic abuse. If we look at the fact Johnny Depp has lost a finger, or tip of his finger is being cuts, bruises, that's also domestic abuse. Listening to the recordings, the ones I've heard are kind of one-sided actually, so it's more Amber Heard demeaning, belittling Mr. Depp, then that's also domestic abuse. It's, at the moment, it's kind of looking like they're both kind of bad eggs, right? So let's look at Amber Heard stuff again and that Johnny Depp's done to her. She's claiming that he was very jealous of her and controlling. That's abuse. So I don't know what the score is so far. We're taking this as if what they're saying is true, which might not be. You know, we're not there to make the decision. We're just looking at what's said so far. Now then, the big problem here is that if it's proven that she's lied about Johnny Depp in court multiple times, she lied about paying the money that she received from Mr. Depp in their divorce to the charities and areas she said she was going to donate them to, then she's completely lost her credibility, not as a victim, but as an actress and a person. And she's done a massive disservice to survivors of domestic abuse by claiming to be part of the clan and to be a survivor and a victim of this. It's kind of sick if that's true. If that's true. If Mr. Depp has been abused by Ms. Heard, as he's saying, and that's found to be true, then we've got an advocate there for domestic violence against men through female spouses. If he's proven to be lying, and he has attacked Amber Heard, well, his career's almost over anyway, let's be honest, he'd lose all that credibility. He would be a massive hate figure in the papers for not only abusing his wife, but then lying about it to try and get himself out of bother. So I don't think anybody's going to come out of this unscathed. If the jury decide that Mr. Depp has in fact struck Amber even once, then she wins. Doesn't matter how many times she's hit him, because that's not what the court case is about. This is about this op-ed, this defamation case, where he's saying, I'm not famous anymore because you lied about me in the papers. And she's like, no, I didn't. You hit me. He's like, no, I didn't, mate. What we do know is they were both substance abusers. Whether or not they were both addicts, I don't know. They're both substance abusers. They both have mental ill health, antagonised probably by the drugs that they were using and the alcohol and the fact that they were fighting. We do also know that from the audio recordings that Mr. Depp would try and escape from the incidents, and Miss Heard would follow him, which does sound a bit odd. If you're so scared of somebody you want to run away, are you the abuser? But I want to listen to what's on the Fox Live news thing. What I want you to do is just apply those elements that we looked at in the Domestic Abuse Act 2021, Section 1. And we're looking at, what constitutes as domestic abuse. Have a look at those. I'll pop them on the screen. Have a watch yourself of the videos. I'll put a link in my chat. And let me know what you think. Because, the great thing about law and things like this kind of case, is it brings domestic violence back into the spotlight. Which means that victims may start coming forward because they feel like they've got the strength to do so. And I know I went on about it earlier. If you feel unsafe in a relationship or with somebody you live with, a close connection to, if you feel unsafe, please go and talk to the authorities or one of the numbers I'm going to put in the chat. If you think somebody you know, whether that's a friend, family, work colleague, anybody, is being a victim of abuse, tell somebody. Tell the police, report it. You might just save a life. If you're under 16 and you're watching this and you're afraid, please tell the police, tell Childline, tell somebody. I'll pop the numbers in the chat as well, because you all deserve to be safe. That would be like a different legislation if you are under 16, but you still be protected, okay? What I want you to do is look after yourselves, look after each other. Please don't commit any crimes. And let me know what you think in the comments. And subscribe to the channel if you like what we're talking about. It'd be great if I could get to 500, then we can start putting polls in and you can start letting me know what kind of stuff you want me to cover. But thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, stay safe, look after each other, and please don't commit any crimes.